but they use the bag for an illusion of justice.
It's indefensible. Oh, now what they did, convict an innocent man twice with a 16-year-old kid. Yes, we can turn away.
I'm good, drum.
Pretending all the pieces fit. Oh, but if we turn away, we let them get away with it. Oh, they say
you can trust us. Oh, but they use the badge for an illusion of justice.
Oh, they say you can trust us. Oh, but they use the flag for an illusion of justice. Of justice.
Hello, Tanya. Hello, Jessica. Tear this whole thing down.
Oh, did you hear the news? There's a new sheriff in town. Not the knee-touching one, not the one supported by them clowns. Oh, the superhero one. She's gonna tear the house of cards down. Oh, they say you can't trust us. Oh, but they use the badge for an illusion of justice. Oh, they say you can't trust us. Oh, but they abuse the flag for an illusion of justice. Of justice. Justice.
Wrecking crew to tear this whole thing down. Another smash by Mr. Seabrook, and I thought appropriate, really, for tonight's topic. So obviously tonight we're talking about who you see on the screen. We're talking about Teresa Marie Halbach. There's a few reasons why we're talking about Teresa tonight. One of those reasons is a commenter I had on my channel today. Another reason is because this commenter's comments weren't unusual. They weren't out of the ordinary. And I get comments like them somewhat often. So I thought the best way to deal with it was to go right at it. So I'm dedicating an entire live chat to talking about Teresa and her memory and why we as supporters have not forgotten her, despite what some other people seem to think. So I just see a lot of complaints about how we as supporters don't talk about Teresa. Well, let's stop that. Let's take that complaint away. So I personally have nothing but respect for Teresa, despite anything that I've read in the investigation reports. I still think she's a very wonderful person, and so I personally kind of revere her memory and think she was really, really a great person, because by all accounts she was. Just like any normal person, she wasn't squeaky clean, but she was pretty clean. She was a pretty good person. In my opinion, hey, some may differ with me, I don't know, but she was, to me, a good person. So, the thing that kills me is when we get commenters that assume because well, number one, I believe Brendan was completely railroaded. And I pull no punches about this. I believe Brendan is 100% innocent. There is not even the single shred of any doubt in my mind. So I have trouble with people who look at what happened to Brendan and don't see it, and then come at me telling me that I don't care about Teresa and making comments and things like that to me. So I just think it's ridiculous. Personally, me, there's not a single day that goes by where I don't think about Teresa in some way, shape, or form. And I'm sure a lot of you probably feel the same way. You're researching this every day and you're thinking about, gosh, this poor girl. You're thinking, God, she had her whole life in front of her still. And whatever happened to her, you want to see whoever it was that did this to her. You want to see that person come to justice. Whoever it is. Which brings us to the problems with this case, which is the investigation. No matter what anybody says, the investigation was the problem here. The investigation gives us unconvincing proof about, or evidence regarding Avery. It all just looks so strange and odd. And then there's the obvious things that we see in this investigation that are wrong. More and more stuff gets dug up every day in the investigation reports, where this investigation was just like off, and then you get things like Tom Fassbender saying, I don't assess IQs. Dude, you size people up for a job. That's your job, to size people up quickly. To tell me you had no indication that Brendan was a little bit, limited in the sense that he probably wasn't going to understand his Miranda warnings and wasn't going to understand those things. You're going to tell me you had no inkling of that, Tom? No. See? And there's just the manifest lies that come out of the main players like Kratz and Tom Fassbender, with the crowning, jewel on this whole Brendan Dassey thing, where the on-bank majority reiterates the same lies that Tom Fassbender and the state of Wisconsin have been saying about the control question all this time. They reiterate that lie. And you just see this whole thing where it's just a mess. And it's an obvious mess. And so blaming us as supporters who are looking at this going, what a mess, blaming us for how it affects the Halbach family and Teresa is really not fair. It's not our fault. We're not the ones that did this investigation. And we're not the ones that look shady as heck. The people that worked this investigation made a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes are coming back to haunt them now. I feel terrible for the Halbachs. Absolutely. I feel terrible that they have to go through this stuff. But are we supposed to allow that to paralyze us into doing nothing? Into just giving up and going home? I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for the Halbachs. And I do hate that they have to go through this, but I also feel in equal proportions the same amount of sympathy and everything for the Averys, particularly Ma and Pa. I have the same in equal proportion. That's me. I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's me. So, that's where I'm stuck. Yes, I have tremendous sympathy for these people involved. But it's not the supporters that created the mess, it's the investigators that created the mess. They don't want to own up to it, but they created it. And to continue to shield themselves from the criticism of their poor job, which the state of Wisconsin spent, over $1 million on the Avery investigation, which I think they should be asking for their money back because they got a really bad investigation for that much money. And I'm sorry I'm not getting to the comments tonight, folks. I have a few things that I want to make clear here, so I'll get to the comments in a bit. But when it comes down to it, we all care about everybody involved here and not just one side. So I say all this because it's going to inform the conversation later. One thing I want to just ask real quick about the chat. Now I'm going to address the chat. when you're commenting tonight, I would ask you to try to keep your questions respectful. I know some people are going to probably ask about some of Teresa's history. I understand. Just phrase your questions in a classy way. Just have some respect when you ask those certain questions. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Just keep it classy. Try not to get too off point in chat, if possible. But yeah, basically, mainly keep it clean, keep it classy, out of respect for the person who we're talking about tonight. So, all right, let's take a look at some of the comments. All the shady things Ellie did. Yep. When I saw the footage of Colburn calling in her plates, I started crying because I felt so bad how they completely botched her murder investigation and get this poor woman justice. Exactly. This is about justice for Teresa too. Surprisingly, that's kind of not really seen by the other side. And equally, there's probably finer points of the other side we don't see as supporters. But, you know, I just figured, why not make it clear? Why not actually just talk about Teresa and why we as supporters feel the way we do, and still have tremendous sympathy for all of the victims involved in this, which aren't just the Halbachs at this point. It's now the Averys, and you know, it's just not just one side. So let's see here. I'm wondering about the comment to which you're responding. Oh, absolutely. I'll get to that in a second, Falcon. It's and I'm not upset with the commenter, by the way. Don't worry about that. I just want to use it. I'm just going to kind of use some of the main points in the comment to talk about. So, but I'm not gonna discuss the person who made the comment so much. Although I did like their handle, their YouTube handle. I liked it. It was pretty fun. It was pretty cool. But anyway. Teresa deserved an investigation conducted with integrity. She didn't get that. Absolutely. The bad guys are responsible for the pain of the Halbachs are being put through right now, which is another point, basically, yes, that I was making, is that it's the poor investigation that is paining the Halbachs right now. And yet, at every point, to shield themselves from this, to shield themselves when the criticism starts getting too much, then they wrap themselves up in the Halbachs. Oh, well, we respect the Halbach family, and that's why we're not ever gonna, you know, like, and that's like how they shield themselves from any criticism of the investigation. It's just, it sickens me, really, to watch the agents of the state and the way they conduct themselves in this. Is just, ugh. Let's see. Exactly, you have to talk about everyone else to get justice for Teresa. Yeah. Who are you talking to? Oh, Falcon was talking to me. We are not conspiracy theorists. Absolutely. Just no, it's okay, Erekose. You talk. Don't apologize. I think people blaming the victim and understanding the victim is different. I truly want understand who Teresa. I truly want to understand who Teresa is. Hi, Adrian. By the way, hello. Let's see, Stephanie Grisham. What better way to honor her memory than to free Stephen and Brendan? So to move on to who actually committed such horrible acts. Yeah, but because they botched the investigation, they know that trying to figure out what they didn't investigate now 15 years ago, 16 years ago, what they didn't investigate then will be very hard to investigate now. And they know that, and that's why they're hanging on to Stephen and Brendan so tightly. The case cuts deep, but it's infected, and reopening it to clean it out, the infection is going to be uncomfortable and painful, but it's the only way it can heal properly. That's actually a pretty good analogy there, T1. Pretty darn good analogy, actually. What did Travis say? What did I miss? KZ said it best. I'm sorry if people are upset, but I'm upset that my client is innocent and he has been in prison for 13 years. Yeah, that's certainly the other side of it, which is why I say I feel it in equal proportions on both sides. So thanks for doing what you do. You do an awesome job. Thank you so much. One of my favorite signs from the rally was a Justice for Teresa sign that I kept for over a year. Cool. We need love. Yeah, and that's what's needed here. We don't want the Halbachs seeing us as monsters. They already are gonna kind of see us that way because they're convinced that Stephen is an animal and they're convinced that Brendan is an animal, and so they don't understand people that could find fault in this case. They just can't. For them, it's too painful for them to do. I totally understand. I don't expect the Halbachs to really, change their stance too much. I mean, I just think it's not really something that we can expect, and I fully understand. They're a family that's in pain. They lost somebody that they loved and cared about deeply, and it's just, I feel terrible that this all has to happen, but I blame the investigators. That's who I blame, because it's their fault that this is happening to the Halbachs, even though they're wrapping themselves in the Halbachs at every turn. But it's their fault that this is happening. I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to harp on that too much. Thank you, Rubber Ducky. Ellie used emotional angle to stop people from asking questions. Exactly, Stacy. Yeah, you sounded great singing along at the beginning. Thanks a lot, dude. By the way, Stacy, I think I'm considering penning some lyrics. I'm considering penning some lyrics and sending them over to you. Being on the outside looking in, we can be compassionate for both sides, and I certainly feel that way. Absolutely, Andy. Are the Halbachs open to other theories of Teresa's murder, or are they 100%? It was SA. Well, if we go by Mike Halbach, if he's any indication of how the Halbachs feel, then they feel the right man is in jail. Like I said, they think of Stephen and Brendan as animals. I would imagine they think of them as animals. As the murderers of their loved one. That for Karen and Tom, it's their daughter. It's for Mike, it's his sister, and for her sisters, it's their sister. You know what I mean? So it's just a terrible thing. I mean, and it is unfortunate, and I can't say it enough. I feel tremendous sympathy for the Halbachs. I do, but I can't let that paralyze me from looking at what's obvious, and I can't allow that to allow me to turn away. I go forward with respect, but I go forward. They truly believe the right people are in prison, and they have been fooled. That's what I basically agree. Yep. All right, Jerome, you like Rubber Ducky's videos? Yep. Rubber Ducky's been getting a lot of attention. She's doing some good stuff over there. I think Teresa's mother feels guilty for giving evidence. Yeah, Chris Watts is in the same prison as Stephen Avery. Chris Watts is one who murdered his wife and children. Oh, okay, yeah. Haven't looked into that case really. There where the DA told them what happened, and then AG. This is same with pretty much all the family's victims. They have no other reference point. Halbachs won't embrace it happening, and that is understandable. Absolutely, it is. I am not going to hold it against the Halbachs that they are in pain and that they're just not willing to open their mind to that. I'm not holding that against them. I feel bad for them, and I will never hold that against them. If LA had done their jobs in the first place, this wouldn't be reopened. Absolutely. The Halbach should really look at how the first woman forgave and handled things with Stephen, because I believe they will be in her shoes one day. I kind of think they may as well. I do. I just don't see it with Stephen. I don't understand. I can't understand any reason why he would have pissed away what he had coming, why he would have been taking any chance. I just don't see any motive, but I see lots and lots and lots of motive to set him up. I see lots of that. I see a whole, truckload of that. Well, I think you'll notice on my channel, Falcon, I'm not really super accusatory, I'm not like a super accusatory guy, but I'll point stuff out that looks odd. I'll point things out and go, does this jive? And I'll point things out that I think are strange and let people draw their own conclusions. It's but sometimes I do get a little accusatory. Sometimes I get a little bit, kind of, over the line possibly, but it's rare. So, what's up, Stacy? My sister was murdered, and in each and every turn, we watched and listened to everything, and the DA and prosecutor had the most to say to tell us what to say. Well, and we usually trust them. Those are people we usually trust, which is why Ken Kratz is he's all the slimier. We see him as all the slimier because he was in a position of absolute trust. Especially when it came to his sexting scandal. I mean, it's even worse. He was dealing with victims of domestic violence, and he's pulling that crap that he's pulling. So when we have individuals in places of power like that, and that are like unquestionably trusted, basically, when they betray us, that's not good. And Ken Kratz is a perfect example of what happens when you betray that. So if all the Halbachs heard was the trials, they probably don't know everything that happened. I don't think anyone can blame the Halbachs in the slightest for not entertaining. I absolutely agree, Falcon. 100%. Mike is maybe weird, but let's see. Whoops. Mike is maybe weird, but he is not a killer for that. Andy, family of murder victim, don't seek out anything that is not in their sphere. Absolutely. Like I said, can't hold it against the Halbachs really, because I just can't. I'm super offended by the bad guys hiding behind the Halbachs as if we're all the evil for wanting justice for all involved. Absolutely. Every time I would see Schimmel wrapping himself up in the Halbachs, or Tom Fassbender wrapping himself up in the Halbachs because he didn't like the uncomfortable questions that he was getting. It totally just rubs me the wrong way. It just gets under my skin, and I just ugh. The RAV battery came from MTSO fleet. All the Dassey boys seem to lie on a whim. Joseph, this live is not about that stuff tonight. Let's see. Don't get strange. The key players were being deposed right before he was arrested. Absolutely. For Halbach family, Teresa is dead and it's done. If we can catch the real killer, that's great. But it's not the Halbach's motive. They are just in pain. Exactly. I agree. That's the Halbachs are just a family in pain. It's perfectly understandable that they're not willing to go on Reddit and start reading about all this stuff about their loved one and the investigation. It's perfectly understandable that they don't want to subject themselves to that. That is absolutely 100% perfectly understandable. So if I realize there may be some people out there that disagree with that, but really, when it comes down to it, it's perfectly understandable. Thank you, Rubber Ducky. We love your videos too. Let's see. You were just speaking what we were thinking. Kratz is the evil one that spewed words to all of them, starting with Fassbender. All right. So it looks like I got down to the bottom of those. Now, to move on, to the next couple points is number one. This channel, number one, will never ever forget about the memory of Teresa. I'm so glad that those sirens are going off in the distance right now. Anyways, so this channel entirely will always be, open to the memory of Teresa Halbach. We'll never ever be forgetting about Teresa Halbach on this channel. It's just not gonna happen. And I just, this all brings me to the comments I was getting today. It was on a video that I did about a week and a half ago. And let me just pull it up here. Whoops. All right. So this person asks me a question, right? And they say, why are you and your lefty cult concerned about Mr. Avery? Which I, thought it was a bad choice of words, but I was like, whatever, I don't care what he calls me. So he goes on, if Teresa wasn't killed by him and all the evidence points to him, then it was most likely one of his brothers or Bobby Dassey. Okay, he's going to give us a line of rationale here, basically, right? Okay, the Halbachs really only want someone to suffer because they are suffering. You can understand that. Well, actually, I can. So, I can understand that they are in great pain. So, but by leaning the investigation towards Mr. Avery, the honest, hard-working, law-abiding citizens of Manitowoc County are saved a lot of money. Money that $1 million for that investigation, that saved them money? Okay. Well, to each their own, I guess. Manitowoc County are saved money. Yeah, money that Mr. Avery's civil suit be allowed to continue would most likely have come from the honest cops' pensions and local government and have been made. Now, but here's the funny thing. Do you know that when Stephen got out of prison, he was only asking for $1.1 million? That was what he wanted. That was it. If they gave him $1.1 million, he walks away and goes away and no more problems. But that's not what they did. They started drafting the Avery bill. They start making this big old show. They make this big old, whoop-de-whoop, right? But it's only to give Stephen $440,000. That wasn't enough. Stephen had already made it clear that he wanted $1.1 million. So when we look at it here, how much did they spend on the investigation? The investigation into the death of Teresa Halbach? Oh, well, that price tag has been said to be around $1 million. So what would have been easier? Right? So, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020, but the point is that there's a lot of areas where this whole thing could have gone differently. But because the state was jerking Stephen around, he ended up filing a lawsuit. And then they ended up finding out that Colburn basically didn't do anything about that call in 1996, 1998, that he got from Brown County Police Department, where they were indicating that Gregory Allen was saying that he committed a murder, he committed a rape, that somebody was that they had gotten somebody, that was Stephen. And Colburn, Colburn knew, because when Stephen gets released 8 years later, the first thing he does, the very next day, the first thing he does, it goes and writes a, what do they call it? Writes a memo or something or whatever, basically, and writes it all down. That's how you know he knew what that call was about. Because he did that the day after Stephen's released. So, there's plenty of BS, when it comes to this case. Let's see. And if it says, if it's a big if Mr. Avery didn't do it, what real harm has been done by him being put away? Brendan is thick as S. He would have got married to one of his cousins and had kids equally thick. So this is the kind of comment, and reason why I'm sharing that is because it throws into perfect, perspective what I'm talking about. You're talking about a 16-year-old kid like that. You're talking about how we as supporters don't have respect for Teresa or the Halbachs or any of that. And yet you come on my channel saying that about Brendan? You know what I mean? No. It's you who lacks the respect. Whoever made that comment, and I'm not going to say who it was, but if that person's watching, you know who you are. You show your lack of respect, and yet you complain about our lack of respect, which I'm here showing you right now, you're wrong. We do have great respect for Teresa and her family. And as I said, I have great sympathy for them, but I also have an equal proportion for the Averys. So don't get mad. Don't get mad, folks. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm hoping it will inform everybody. Don't just react when somebody says something like this to you. If you just react without taking a second and just processing it for a second and thinking about it for a second, and then come up with a response that is less anger and more substance. That's mainly what I would ask when dealing with people such as that person there. Obviously that, I said to that person after reading that comment, because obviously after reading that comment, I'm like, okay, this person hasn't watched really very many of my videos. They obviously have not seen the numerous videos where I talk about Teresa and my sympathy for the Halbach family. And so I was like, okay, well, you watched one of my videos. Then this person goes on to say they watched many of my videos and da-da-da-da-da. And so I'm like wondering at this point, like, okay, many of my videos? Okay, well, there is over 400 at this point. So maybe they missed the parts. But anyways, I ended up talking to this person, and they're pretty, after I commented back, they got a little bit more respectful, and they were speaking with kind of a little less, disrespect. But I just want to point this out. People that are out there that sympathize with the Halbachs and Teresa, they're going to fire comments at you like this. And what I want to make, kind of clear here is it's important, not only out of respect of being a supporter of Stephen and Brendan, but also out of respect for Teresa herself, to take a deep breath before you respond to somebody like that. Take a deep breath and try to remember less anger, more substance. I think if you do those things, you will naturally become a more positive and a better example as a supporter of Stephen and Brendan, and that is really what I really truly hope for the supporters of Stephen and Brendan, that we come to be known as a classy bunch of people who just have concerns about the criminal justice issues here. That's what I hope for. And so I know some people out there they have issues with the Halbach family stuff. I'm not here to say you stop having those issues. All I'm here to do is offer what influence I can to the supporters of Stephen and Brendan to suggest that don't react too quickly to people like this. Obviously this person was trying to get under my skin, and it's important not to let people get under your skin, especially when they're trying. Let's see. Because they made it 36 million by fighting. Yeah, exactly. I hope KZ can follow up and get Ellie involved and sent to prison. I hope so too. Home G, are you serious? The memo was worth an extra 2 million in settlement value. This happens on both sides. Choose carefully who you speak to, but don't lump all people into one category. That's true. That's why I'm warning about comments like this, or when people come at you like this. Be sure not to lose your cool. Make sure you keep a level head, and don't let them make you a bad human. Don't let their being a bad human make you a bad human, right? That's important, right? Can we agree that that's actually probably good logic? Don't let somebody else being a bad human make you a bad human, because then they can point at you and say what a bad human you are after they made you a bad human, right? So when you react with class and respect, then they end up looking like the bad human, you know. So that's probably the better way to do it. Anyways, that's my advice. So moving on. Keep on keeping on. It's sad when people try to bring you down. Yeah, well, he you know, I'm not really mad at the guy. Really, I'm not really. I'm maybe it's because I've dealt with so many comments like that at this point that I got a thicker skin now. But when I read comments like that now, I don't really focus on the personal, right? What I focus on is the things that they do there, like the fact that he's claiming, to put it perfectly, the reason why you guys are all hearing about this particular commenter that I was just reading to you is because this particular commenter accused us of lacking respect, and then yet finished up their comment the way they did about Brendan, and proved that they have a complete lack of respect. So that's what about this commenter that struck me. I'm not mad at the commenter at all, like I said, but I am able to use a common misstep that some commenters on my channel make and use it as an example. So I don't mean all truthers necessarily, but I still see people talking about freaking chapstick. We don't spend all day. Let's see. I don't mean all truthers. Okay, or O'Donnell, can I call him a major POS? We don't spend all day and all night talking about it to find loopholes. We're searching for the truth, nothing less. Yeah, that's a good point. We're not here trying to figure out how to fool the justice system. We're trying to figure out what the heck happened. And that's what's so hard about this, because the investigation was poor. And like I said, if they spent $1 million on this investigation, they need to be started. They should have been asking for their money back, because it was really bad. Just as much justice for Teresa as Stephen and Brendan. Absolutely. Hey, sorry, but I'm coming in late. No worries. The chapstick has already been disproved by KZ. Everyone, the waxy substance was not chapstick. Can we agree he is a major POS? Yeah, Len? Absolutely. Let's see here. Life's a garden. That chapstick really chops. That really chaps your... That's the current theory. Nothing wrong with talking about it when it comes from the woman with the testing and answers that we don't have access to. Traced, not blown out of water. Oh, God. Hi, Erekose. How's your day going? My day's going all right, I guess. Not too bad, you know. Hey, everyone. Just catching you live a little late. Hey, how you doing, Amanda? Let's see. Wait, Dan O'Donnell, don't get me started. The image was definitely traced. I do fine art, highly detailed realism, and can tell you it was traced. Won't go into detail here. Right, Allie? Stay classy for Brendan Dassey. Yes. That's one of my favorite hashtags, by the way. Love that one. Love that hashtag. Traced mugshot. Okay, so you guys are getting off point here. So, the last thing I'm going to talk about, just so you all know, we're probably into the last 10 to 15 minutes here. The last thing I want to talk about is I had somebody asking me today about what they could do to share about Stephen and Brandon, Teresa, whatever, about all the things about the case and stuff like that. So I figured I'd take a little bit of time here to talk about what you can do, how the different ways that you can share. And I'll bring up real quick at the beginning ways that you can share, things about the case with other people. Is through platforms I don't really use, like Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. You can obviously use those things. You can send like memes, or you can probably even send links to the case documents and stuff, and you can talk to people and you can just engage people about the case. I mean, Paul Capaldi is a freaking master of it. That guy goes out just hanging out and heads down to the pub, and next thing you know, he's got about 10 people around talking about making a murder. So, but the way you create awareness is just by caring and wanting to make a difference and wanting to, do that. And then you get on the platforms that you use and you just share information about the case. Things about, the evidence that are obviously fishy, especially if you're on like Instagram or whatever. You want to share probably memes and things like that point out really, stuff like that. Anyways, another way, big way, obviously, is Facebook. Another big way is Twitter. These are huge ways, and obviously you can do it like I do here on YouTube. I don't expect everybody to get on YouTube, because I know a lot of people have an aversion to getting in front of a camera. So, and trust me, I know that because of how many people that I've wanted to get on the show, friends of mine, to talk about the case, that were just so camera shy that they just couldn't do it. So, things that people can do. You can get on Twitter and you can start building a following. You can start following other people. It helps to start following other people right away. Find other people out there that are interested in the thing you're interested in. Type in making a murderer. You'll see a bunch of different people, pop up, and you can go and start to follow those people. And, TikTok Manitowoc, 7 Pairs of Panties, Case File Reviewer, Mystic Jinx, TS. There's just a lot of them out there. Really smart people out there tweeting about the case, like almost every day. I know TikTok Manitowoc is multiple times a day, multiple. And so when you get to being like that, that's how you can get the word out. So this person that was asking me was from Germany. So if this person starts their own Twitter account there in Germany and starts tweeting and sharing information about the case on her Twitter, a lot of people in Germany that are interested in the case may end up gravitating to her Twitter feed. You see what I mean? So these are the types of things that you can do to help support if you're looking to. For those people who are wondering how and unsure, and those sort of things, these are things you can do. Another thing you can do is kind of something like I do. I set my Facebook timeline to public, and I post about Brendan, Teresa. I actually post twice a year about Teresa. I post on her birthday, which is March 22nd of 1980. But March 22nd, I make a post for Teresa on her birthday. And then on October 31st, every year, I make a post for Teresa. And I put it on my news feed, like I said, which is public. That's something I do. This is how I try to create awareness for the case. And I think it's important to show respect for Teresa, because I think it's important for people that are out there watching your feed, whichever feed it might be, if it's videos, if it's Twitter feed, if it's your Facebook news feed, whatever it is, whatever feed it is, you definitely want that feed to have a remembrance for Teresa and an awareness for Teresa, the victim in the case, so that it's not all that easy for others to say that you don't care about Teresa. I know it's easy to avoid the subject because we all feel so terrible about what happened to her. So I know sometimes it's easy to just avoid it, but I don't think that's helpful at this point. I don't think avoiding the subject is really, I just don't think it's particularly helpful. So I think if you guys are interested in figuring, those of you who are wondering how coming into this, just watched MAM2, haven't really developed much of a social media presence to this point, these are things you can do. You start a Twitter account, you start, whatever it is, if you have Instagram, whatever those things are, there's lots of different platforms that you can utilize where people can start to follow you and stuff like that. So it's just a matter of what appeals to you, which platforms you prefer, and that sort of thing. But whatever it is, get on them and share articles, share news about the books coming out, share news about interviews that are going to be available on YouTube or whatever, or share links to when there's going to be like Brendan's lawyers talking or something like that. There's all kinds of things out there that you can share that help to inform people about the case. So I would say just get yourself on these social media platforms and just try to make people aware of the things in the case that bother you, the things that you can't forget and can't ignore, and start there. And then you'll start to see other things. There'll be other things that you'll start to get interested in and realize you can't ignore. And so people will come to you because they see you as having looked into this stuff, and it becomes an easy way for them to find out what's going on in the case, because some people aren't inclined to dive into the documents. That's just the truth of it. Anyways, let me get back to the comments here a little bit. Let's see here. Which is why the stories don't match. Let's see what we're talking about here. Grief Falcon. Battery changer. Are we all talking about the battery now? Thank you, Jerome. That is not my understanding at all. This is what it originally believed. In here, whichever department that called Manitowoc will have a report saying I called the... Okay. Okay, so that's how you guys can share. And for those of you who are watching this video and aren't that familiar, so those are some of the things you can do. That's going to be about it for tonight, folks. So we'll go ahead and play out on Stacy here.
be